Hello and welcome to What is an Interactive Read Aloud? My name is Mona Savage and I'm so excited to be here with you today to really be sharing with you the love of reading through this one component, interactive read aloud. Join me as we go through a series of sessions together where I will be talking about what is interactive read aloud, the goal of interactive read aloud, what is the structure, how we can highlight the skills that we're looking for to really bring the vocabulary, the learning skills as a reader with comprehension to the forefront using text that our readers can thoroughly enjoy. Let's get started with today's first session, which is what is an interactive read aloud? So we are all good to go on what is interactive read aloud. We know that in order to grow, it's always best to go back and self reflect on what we know. And what we do know is that Vygotsky in 1981 stated that when we felt that we know ourselves, it really is because of our interactions with others through socially meaningful activities. Most of what a child knows about language is learned through social interaction. And in 1978, Vygotsky was quoted saying, "The mechanism of social behavior and the mechanism of consciousness are the same. We are aware of ourselves and we are aware of others in the same way we know others." And this is really at its best because of the relationship to ourselves. We are in the same position as others are to us. That's when we really get to know one another. That's when we get to really know the world around us. So we connect to others, we connect to ourselves, and we connect to the world. I hope that makes a little bit of a reminder of when we share with our readers. Are we connecting ourselves to the text? Are we connecting with others to the text, maybe in a previously read text? Or are we connecting even more to the world around us? So, once we are really recognizing that the more we expose through interactive read aloud our readers to the world around them, to themselves, to others in their classroom, there are lots of things that they're going to benefit from an interactive read aloud. But really, truly, besides the self connection, the connection to others, the connection to the world, interactive read alouds are the following. So let's see, what is an interactive read aloud? Well, here's a list. We know that interactive read alouds, they really are a model of good reading. They really help to motivate our students to read on their own. We know that interactive read alouds are a great way to develop background knowledge for our readers so that if they don't know the content, the topic, the idea, the interest, the passion that's in the text we're reading, it's going to provide some background and grow them in that area. We know that it improves reading comprehension. We know that interactive read alouds boost vocabulary. Their exposure to rich language, it's going to then be internalized, and they're going to start using the vocabulary in the same way that they're hearing it. We know that it promotes critical thinking to hear adults read aloud, to hear adults converse and get them engaged in the text discussion. So, promoting critical thinking, interactive read aloud does that. We know that it develops oral language and listening skills through those class discussions, through the discourse of talking about the text that was just read. And we know most of all, it creates a sense of learners in a community, helping each other discuss, really empathize with characters in a text, think about the social implications of a text, problem solve within a text, all together in a community of readers, a community of learners. So the most important thing is that it creates a sense of community in your classroom. Here are some key features that you're going to see in your interactive read alouds. You're going to see that really an interactive read aloud is going to carefully have a text that's selected to match an instructional focus to the standards you're teaching for your readers. The teacher reads the story aloud. She or he invites the thinking before, during, and after the reading. This is all to help the children deepen their understanding and really develop the ability to talk to one another about a text that has just been read and shared. So you're really helping through the teacher reading aloud the students to digest the information that was in the text and then discuss it with others in the classroom to see what the critical thinking is going on and what maybe opinions and thinking that can be shared and learned upon through different perspectives. Here's a quote to note, and it's by Fontes and Pinnell, and they were quoted as saying, an interactive read aloud is a deliberate, explicit method of reading aloud where the teacher models for the whole class vocabulary development, reading fluently, comprehension strategies, and all this allows for students to join in a discussion and become interactive. So I'm going to say it one more time. The three things that really stood out to me in this quote. The teacher is going to be deliberate and explicit. They're going to model vocabulary development, how to read fluently, and the use of comprehension strategies that then allows the students to join the discussion of the text and become interactive. So you might be having a common question that a lot of teachers have. Isn't reading aloud enough? I read aloud to my students on a daily basis. You're exactly right. We often read books aloud to our students for enjoyment during their resting time, during recess, after recess, I should say. And we give them a chance to cool down by having an adult model and just read aloud a similar book, a familiar book. Not every read aloud is going to need to be interactive. I do want you to remember that. We are talking through these next couple of sessions specifically about interactive read alouds, not those read alouds that we do maybe at the end of a day with our own children in the bed when they're getting a good night story. We're not talking about the read alouds that we do when we're having our students cool down after recess or in between waiting in line in the hallway, or even reading a chapter just for fun to our students that we've been doing as a class. Those specifically are simply read alouds. We'll be discussing interactive read alouds, where we are going to have our readers engage in thoughtful, critical thinking discussions about a specific text or even a portion of a text. So let's talk about what makes a read aloud interactive. Here are a couple of things I want you to remember as you are thinking, am I really doing an interactive read aloud right now with my students, or am I just reading aloud? Well, here are some key features of an interactive read aloud. They're purposeful and planned. That's number one. Interactive read alouds are purposeful. They serve a purpose of teaching a certain standard, a certain reading comprehension, skill, vocabulary words. They're planned. I'm going to make notes in the text where I will stop for planned purposes to engage my readers in that skill or standard I'm trying to highlight in authentic text. So purposeful and planned. Interactive read alouds can employ text that are above the student's grade level. One reason being the teacher is the primary reader and I'm going to be the discussion facilitator. So the second key feature of an interactive read aloud is the teacher's going to select a text that probably is above the independent level, no more than 2 levels above an independent reading level of the students in her class, the grade level. So I'm going to be sure that I'm the reader, I'm the facilitator to really facilitate the discussions. So those two things are critical when you are thinking about an interactive read aloud. Am I choosing a text that I know that they don't have to worry about reading independently? It's above their reading level independently. That's okay. I'm reading it. And I'm going to facilitate the discussion with the readers after or during or before we read the text. Interactive read alouds are similar to instructional conversations because they aim to engage in learning through natural interactions with the stories selected, through natural interactions of their peers and the teacher. So, one, purposeful and planned. Two, the teacher reads, so it's above independent level, and I'm going to lead the discussions. Three, I'm going to engage them in conversations that are instructionally focused. I've planned those questions. I've planned how they're going to peer converse. I planned how we're going to converse as a whole community of readers. So it's instructionally conversations that are being led. And then fourth, they are deferring the instructional conversation because the conversation is ongoing during the reading rather than conducted only before and after. That's huge, friends. So many times when we do a simple read aloud, we'll tell them what we're going to read. We kind of do a little preface of it, a little introduction, and then we might even follow up with a couple of questions at the end. That's just the nature of being great educators. But an interactive read aloud is, remember, it's deliberate and explicit, purposeful and planned. And so I'm not just going to want conversation before and after the reading. I'm going to purposely plan conversation to take place in the middle, to hear the different perspectives and the thinking going on as the text is being highlighted and read. Therefore, an interactive read aloud is way more powerful than a plain read aloud. It's purposeful and planned. It's instructional conversations. It's ongoing before, during, and after. And it's above most of their independent reading levels because the teacher's leading it, whether it's the discussions and the teacher's leading it, and they're in charge of the reading as well. So I want you to remember, with interactive read aloud, both readers and listeners actively process the language, the ideas, and the meaning of the text. That's huge. Both readers and listeners, because they're doing both. They're following along, and these readers are listening actively, and they're having to process the language, the ideas, and the meaning of the text. So let's recap. What is interactive read aloud? There's a teacher role that we kind of explained and a student role. Let's look at the teacher role. The teacher role says that as a teacher, I'm going to conduct this with all my readers, whole group, so we're all listening to the same text. I know that my role as a teacher is to choose a text level above their independent, where they might not be choosing on their own. I'm going to choose that because I will be in charge of reading it. They'll just be listening. And I know that I'm going to model. I'm going to model what a reader looks like, thinks like, acts like. So that's my role as a teacher. Let's look at the student's role. They're going to be listening. So if they're only listening, and they might even see the text, but if they're really just listening to the text of these great trade books, authentic literature, their primary role in interactive read aloud is thinking, talking, connecting, reflecting. Let's look at that again. The student's role is thinking, talking, connecting, reflecting. Friends, I'm so glad you joined me today for this first session of what is an interactive read aloud. I'm excited to take you on the journey to dig deeper into all those wonderful things that this component of our reading time with our readers really is. Join me for the next session as we look at what is the goal. We've really taken a look at what is interactive read aloud. Now we're going to take a look at what is the goal. What is my primary goal if I'm going to be doing this modeling? What is my primary goal if they're just listening? Join me for that next session. What is the goal of interactive read aloud? I'm Mona Savage, and I just want to say thank you so much for joining me today as we went over interactive read aloud.